So this is Anil. I'm microbiologist by education, and I've been working since almost 2 decades as a job, as an entrepreneur. And while I was doing a job as such, I found myself to be in a little different position than a conventional employees. And then I observed that I am being relied by my bosses for something which was very aggressive task, which were demanding on the timelines. It has to be made within a timeline, and which has very high impact on the entire organization. So that gave me a lot of confidence on myself during my job. And then naturally, even my bosses during my job relied on me to give me a task which was out of my education itself. Even I was a microbiologist, I had to sometimes go to the chemistry and go beyond my field, and that made me learn, going back to even on the 12th books, despite of having a post-graduation in microbiology, read through the basics and then come up with a concept which is required for industry. So that was what about how my job was. And then it really gave me a very high confidence to work on a task which were extremely demanding, which has very high stakes, and naturally my bosses relied on me for this, and I came up with fairly good success. Similarly, I being the first generation businessman, later I switched to a business, and I was challenged. Everything was really from a scratch. All the decisions that I have taken during my business were my own decisions. And then naturally, as a part of process, I have taken a decision which were actually good, and sometimes which was little reprimanding as well. But then over the time, I realized that there is something which is very important and which is very cognizable. People should know that this is something which is really working behind you, and that's a real pilot of life. You know, the real pilot of life which works behind is something which is extremely powerful and which is not perfect. Okay, so what do you mean by not perfect? Not perfect means the powerful tool can bring a best and can bring a worst for you. Secondly, it works 24/7. It works with you all the time, when you are awake, when you are sleeping. It decides on behalf of you. You know, it decides on behalf of you. It doesn't need any permission from you to decide. It also decides without your consent. Okay, it works for you, it decides, and naturally it is responsible for your decisions, reactions, fears, and it naturally reflects in your success and excitements of your life. So it has big impact on you, and that's why what I realized over the time. You see like horse here. So do you feel that horse is really tied to a chair? I don't feel so, to be very honest. It is something which is behind its brain that is actually working. Look at the horse, it's very powerful, right? It can throw away the chair anytime it wants. But the reason it cannot move because it is being challenged on some beliefs. And believe me, the horse will die out of hunger, but it will not move from here. So imagine however brilliant you are, however powerful you are, it is merely very small against something which you really believe. Right? So there is something which is powerful, and then it is very important that everybody should work on it, and that's why I want to give a glimpse of it. Alright. So there is something which is called a subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is something which you see. There is a kind of iceberg. You see something on the top, but there is big thing lying behind, and which drives you entire life, professional or personal. It records the experiences. Your subconscious mind records it. What does that mean? That means whenever subconscious mind works, look at a situation when you touch hot surface first time in your life, you get hurt, right? And then after that, you really remember that, look, you should not touch the hot surface. Then you forget the moment when you first time touch the hot surface, but the experience stays. So this subconscious mind records all the experiences and keep itself in a library to be used next time whenever it is to be used. And it uses that in milliseconds. Irrespective of you choose it or you do not choose it, irrespective of you want it or you do not want it, it will work. Right? It also creates some of the beliefs. It creates beliefs by hearing the notions of the people. So you create, over the time, you create certain beliefs about yourself. For example, if somebody tells you that, look, this, going to this country is very difficult because weather is really harsh. Then, in spite of not traveling to that country, you make your mind, you make believe that that country is difficult to go. But that weather may be good for you, but that's because that's their perception. They might have traveled in a bad weather, they might have a poor health, but that's their opinion. But then it made you believe that that country is difficult to go with. So that's called the subconscious mind. Now this subconscious mind, whenever it works, as I told you, it works good and bad. So let's call a bad outputs that is coming from a subconscious mind a bug for the time being. Let's call it a bug for a discussion. So this bug is something which your subconscious mind gives you, a negativity, a feel of fear, a feel of angriness, the feel of stress, and let's call it a bug for the moment of time. Now what it does, okay? So these bugs has to be worked on. That these bugs has to be worked on, and then how do you really want to work around the bug? Like, so let's go and identify, know yourself how you really behave. Okay, identify your triggers. What does trigger mean? See yourself, watch yourself. Where do you get excessively stressed? There is no reason. Other people do not get stressed for the same reason, but then you get excessively stressed about. You sometimes get excessively angry about, which you should not. Other people do not get so angry on certain incidences, but you get angry. That's your bug. Identify your limiting thoughts. You want to do something, but that small limiting thoughts are limiting you to do something to achieve your goal. For example, I need a breakfast at a certain time. If I don't get breakfast at a certain time, I get annoyed, I feel really angry and all those. So limit, that's the limitations. So try to identify your limitation. Try to identify your notion, something which you have not experienced, which has created certain notions around you. Try to identify your notions. When I travel, I really feel XYZ, I take a headache and all those. So these are kind of a notions. You try to see what are your notions. Sometimes some notions are something which you have not experienced before, but then those stays with you. Like I told you, like a weather, right? You have not traveled there, but then you carry a notion because somebody has come and told you that it's a notion, right? So when you know your bug, then you need to actually accept the bug. There is very interesting thing here. You need to accept your bug mean you really need to call it a bug, right? That means sometimes some people accept the bug in a very different way. What they do is they try to justify their bug. For example, some time over before, like during the child, some people tried to swim, but they could not swim because of certain things. They were annoyed, and then they could not learn a swimming. And over the time, they may get a chance to learn a swimming, but they come up saying that, look, I don't swim because it catches me a headache. But the real reason is they never tried it. So they started loving the bug. And loving bug means you will never ever come out of that. And that's the bug that horse was carrying. Right? It started justifying itself that, look, I can't do anything around it. Right? So do not accept the bug as a part of your life. That's very important. Okay? So, and this is the key. Once you accept that this is a bug, then you really start your journey to make sure that you overcome that. Right? So how do you actually overcome that? Right? Make a first attempt. What does that mean? The very important thing here is do a first attempt, and that's very important. People do not do the first attempt. First attempt is extremely important, and that's the important key. So identify a trigger. So identify where you really get excessively stressed, on which you should not, or you get excessive angry. And then if that situation is coming to you, you make a deliberate decision not to get excited, not to get angry, or not to get stressed on a certain situation. And you really deliberately act in a different way, which should be a normal act. Also, you should re-establish the possibilities. That's very interesting again. What does that mean? The re-establishing the possibility mean something you could not do previously, and then you can do it now. For example, you during your education you might not have read the novels, you might not have read the extracurricular books because you are already occupied in education, you are already reading a lot, and then you feel that you cannot read the novel, you should not read the novel, or you may not be interested in reading the novel, but that's not the case. Now, after certain years of the time, when you are a job, when you are at a business, whatever it is, you have to re-establish that possibility. If you come across a good library, if you come across a good bookstore, you should try going and then pick up a book to see whether you can grow these abilities. Because those are not your disabilities, those are your beliefs. Because you could not get the opportunity to read it. And so, re-establish the possibility, and that's what even in business taught me. Right? During the businesses, something was true, which was true maybe a few years back, is not true today. I have to go back and see whether that is true today and whether I can re-establish that. Like my journey right from a single person company to a multi-people company and then working across the globe, I realized that you really need to go back and re-validate the things which you denied before. And that's the key, and that's where you should work. Challenge the notions. What does that mean? You carry certain notions which you have not believed, which you have not done before. And then you should go and challenge your own notions, challenge your own capabilities, and try to see that whether you can achieve the goal. Now, and the first time you win, believe me, this is a very important again. First time you win, enjoy the win, celebrate, give a party to yourself, do it alone. Why you do it alone? There is a reason. Because you do not want your subconscious mind to be emphasized by somebody else's belief. You need not tell a reason of party. So give it yourself. Go alone to a movie. Go alone to a restaurant, have a dish which you really like to have. Right? If you like to have like 5 dishes at one go, allow a waste and eat small things out of it. But enjoy the win. You must enjoy the win. Go to a trip, go to a solo trip where you really want to go. And then that will really give you experience. And you know what you did by this? By this win, you have given an experience to yourself, and that is overlapped by a subconscious mind. So your bug is overlapped with some new experience. And next time, whenever you conquer, whenever the bug appears, your subconscious mind will work the way you want in an achievable manner, and that subconscious mind will start giving you a different output because you have overlapped that subconscious mind. You have taught your subconscious mind a different way of acting, and then because you enjoy the win, and then you create experiences out of the win. So enjoy the win, but do it yourself, do it privately. Right? Now imagine, like, again, the very good example of this is Dr. Rabindranath Tagore. He has learned the painting at age of 63. Okay, what is the biggest notion he killed? Most of the people start thinking that, look, after a certain age, I cannot do these things, I cannot learn new things. Even we carry, like people say that, look, I am like getting old, I cannot do this because I am like getting old and all those. But then Dr. Rabindranath Tagore beat a notion. Right? He learned painting at the age of 63. So he must have the habits to kill the notions all the time in his life, and that's why he is so big dignitaries, and he has achieved so many things in his entire life because he had never allowed a bug to come in his life. And that's why you need to learn. That's what is something you should carry all the time in your life. And then I'll tell you something which is very interesting about me, is that during my college or school days, I used to travel by bus. Okay, so from my home to my college or school. And whenever I board the bus, I used to catch a window seat. And then we was struggle between the friends to catch a window seat. And that window seat became so important in my life that whenever I started my professional journey during a job, and then I catch up the flights. And during these days, there were no reservation of a window seat. You have to go to the check-in counters and then tell them that, look, I want this seat, I want this seat. If it is available, they used to give away. If not, we miss it. So I became so conscious about getting the window seat subconsciously that I used to go to the airport. I should go to the airport 2 hours before, but I used to reach it 3 hours before because I want to be first in the queue. And the reason was I want to have a window seat. And it was creating amazing stress on me. Amazing stress. Before I build, like I will get up early in the morning, like 5 hours before. I reach the airport 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours before. I wait it and then I want to stand in the first queue because I want a window. And that was really weird. That was really weird. And then I started imagining how it's happening because in a row there are just 2 window seats and rest of the people are happy. And why I am not happy with that? And the stress was so bad. And then subconscious mind doesn't understand the incidence. It just creates a stress, and it can be any big stress for a smallest of the thing. And it was so big stress. And then I decided not to get worried about it. And then I decided, one fine time I decided that look, I don't want to, I want to stay in a queue and then stay in a queue, and then I'll not, pressure myself to get a window seat. And then I realized that even if I don't window seat, nothing happens. It was all good. It was my stress. It was my own bug. And then I really killed that back. But now, even now, I really love the window seat. But I do not get stressed if I don't get it. I'm still happy. Right? I need not go like 3 hours before to the airport. I go in right time. If I get a window seat, I'm happy. If I don't get window seat, I'm not unhappy. I'm not stressed. I love my life. I love my travel. Before travel stress, I don't get any stress before my travel anytime. So that's how I conquered the bug. And that's how you should conquer the bug. And that's the very key of life. Looks as a very small thing, but it can bring amazing bad results for you. And you know what? If you do this, if you repeat this, if you put habit of killing your notions, challenging the possibilities, what you will be? Believe me, you will be a person with full of opportunities and full of achievements, and you must do that. Thank you. All the best.